fans, it's time for those most famous words in motorsports. Drivers, start your engines!
Michael Conti comes up at a corner number 4 to the checkered flag. He wins his first NASCAR iRacing.
So for the second time, we welcome you to Circuit Spa-Francorchamps for the 8th round of the iRacing.com Pro Series of Road Racing. We apologise for coming on air a little bit late today, of course. The iRacing.com World Cup qualifiers taking place as we speak. We'll talk a little bit about that in our post-race show. In the meanwhile, we're going to go straight ahead and show you a little bit of a track preview guide by our friends at CST Azura. Enjoy!
Hello and welcome to our second episode of Track Guides. This week we are going to one of the most legendary tracks of all time, Spa-Francorchamps. Originally built in 1920s, the track has had many changes through the years, evolving from one of the fastest and unfortunately the most deadliest tracks into a very modern circuit. The corners at this track are known through the whole racing world, Eau Rouge, Radion, One, Blanchemont. However, it's not all about the fast corners. The very first corner is one of the slowest in the calendar, and as drivers are about to finish their lap, they need to negotiate through the bus stop. The long straights ask for minimum downforce, but the long fast corners require maximum grip. So again, the setup will be a big compromise. The best overtaking points are entering Le Gong and the bus stop. Braking stability is the key in these places. Let's jump on board Martti Pietilä, who will tell us how to get through this magnificent track.
Brake hard for the first corner. It's really important to get right, so you can get the power down early. It's one of the longest full throttle sections we have, so you need all the speed you can get. Going through Eau Rouge, full throttle, turn in the bottom of the corner, get near to curbs, and especially the last one, attack it really aggressively. Getting ready for the next corners, use the curb on the left side on the braking and turn in. Watch out for the second corner, it's a bit bumpy in the middle if you ride the curb, otherwise just accelerate through. Then rivage, difficult slow corner, bumpy in the middle, the car might unsettle a bit, power down, downhill towards Buhon, which is a beautiful corner, almost flat out, just a slight lift in the entry, then back on full throttle, 6th gear, then 7th gear, and getting ready for the next corners. You need really good setup here because the car will need to change directions fast and respond to your inputs. Accelerate out towards one of the most important corners here, heading to the back straight. Watch out for the green tarmac on the left hand side of the curb. It's really slippery. If you get there, you will get wheel spin and lose momentum to the back straight. Heading towards Blanchemont, a fast corner flat out, which leads to the bus stop. Good place for overtaking, brake hard, and use the curbs on both sections of the chicane. Accelerate hard, watch out for the green stuff again, and there you have the lap. It's World Tour week, so hopefully see you in both the World Championship and the World Tour race. Until next time, bye.
So welcome back to Circuit Spa-Francorchamps, and once again we apologise for going on a little bit late today. However, Will Vincent, Marius Gonnenbeck, as always, in the booth, and Marius will go straight to qualifying. The top 3 drivers in the point standings are in the top 3 in the grid. Richie Stanaway, first place in the standings, on pole position. Emil Spindel, second place in the standings. Sorry, third place in the standings in second. And Mogard DG Philo, who's second in the standings, currently qualified in the 3rd position.
Yeah, and hello from me as well. And this is the second round, of course, in the season on the prestigious Spa-Francorchamps circuit. So these guys have had a race already. They've had a little bit of a different physics model back then, but the track won't change, and most of the guys already did a good portion of practice here. You said it, the top 3 also being the top 3, not in order, however, in the championship. And we've got a couple of changes from the first race in Spa. Mainly, Yudai Narumi is one of the big losers here in the qualifying. He had the pole position in the first round, and he went all the way to 11th position today, almost being 7/10 off the pole. So a big shock there for Yudai Narumi, starting from outside the top 10. Then we've got Richie Stanaway, who's come into his full amount of potential really in the last couple of rounds. So he's been in the 9th position in the first round. He is starting from pole today. And we've got Emil Spindel, who also apparently learned a thing or two. He came from 6th in the first round and now starts from 2nd position on the grid.
And it's showing the absolute dominance by Richie Stanaway once again in the series. Of course, when we talked to him last week, he was saying, beginning of the season, he had some issues with his setup. Of course, he was finishing his real-life racing season as well. But these last couple of races, Stanaway has been on absolute fire. And let's not forget as well that a couple of drivers are now locked in to the 2013 iRacing.com Grand Prix World Championship Series. The standings coming up on your screen momentarily. And you say 5 drivers now, Marius, have qualified for the 2013 iRacing.com Grand Prix World Championship Series. And Stanaway, Spindel, and Philo are 3 of those drivers.
Yeah, and they've all together done a really good job during the season. They've all had their problems, especially talking about Stanaway not really getting into the mood, not really getting into the rhythm in the first couple of rounds. But now he's really shown with the late victory on Watkins Glen, for example, that he's really the main contender for the series victory here. We've got 2 rounds left, this being one of them, and it is not much time for his followers, Emil Spindel and Mogard DG Philo, to make up the couple of positions. But we may not forget, Will, first position gets 50 points and a second one already gets 40, so Stanaway cannot exactly miss a win today.
Indeed, yes, and of course it is Richie Stanaway, Mogard DG Philo, David Corps, Enzo Benito, and Emil Spindel, who are qualified for the 2013 iRacing.com Grand Prix World Championship Series. Drivers today who can secure their place: Simon Cattell, PJ Sturgis, Yudai Narumi, Thiago Ferrer, Alexei Usiakola, Dave Geelink, Timo Evenham, Jesper Pedersen, Christian Laurent, and perhaps Vasily Zatov as well, can all qualify. You have to, however, go, Marius, down to that 25th position, the bubble. Miguel Martin currently sat in the 25th position, just 9 points ahead of Wes Richards. You've got drivers like Xavier Busson, Fabio Di Carmo, and Max Dell'Orco, all looking to try and work their way in as well. And that battle for P25 in the last of the spots is going to be really, really important.
Yeah, and these guys, of course, fighting for every position today. And the Spa has been one of the very most exciting races we had this season so far. So the guys really are looking to get one odd second position up here from the grid. And we're starting, of course, on the Grand Prix, finish straight and start straight, being before La Source and not going down into Eau Rouge, as, for example, we've been during the Proto Ice. So these guys will have the prestigious La Source corner in the first turn. That's going to be a big point of the race.
Yep, and then to run through your starting grid for round 8 of the Pro Series of Road Racing. We talked about this. Richie Stanaway, pole position once again. Emil Spindel, second. Mogard DG Philo in third. David Corps in fourth. Enzo Benito rounding out your top 5. In the 6th position, Alexei Usiakola. Christian Laurent in the 7th position. PJ Sturgis in 8th. Hal Cudasso in 9th. And Max Dell'Orco in the 10th position. Yudai Narumi, we talked about how he qualified first last time by. He's 11th in this race. Timo Reven in 12th, Vasily Zaitev in 13th, Simon Cattell 14th, Dave Geeling 15th, Pierre Ibrizzo in 16th, Jesper Pedersen in 17th, Paul Ilbrink 18th, Justin Lovett 19th, Brian Terpstra rounding out your top 20. Rest results coming up on your screen momentarily. We're going to go green racing in less than a minute and a half's time. And Marius, who do you think is going to win?
It's really hard to put my money on anybody else than Richie Stanaway today, but I think especially Moga Filho and Emil Spindel are maybe the real ones here to challenge Stanaway today. But from the pole, once again, he's going to have a good start. He's learned that by now. So my money is on Stanaway. He's in a brilliant mood. He's in a brilliant form. And yeah, he's really the guy to win this today. And what do you think?
I think that Spindel's going to win it, actually. Don't know why, but that CST Azure car has been looking very strong. He's not been the best in qualifying. However, that 33 car in race pace always cannot be discounted. And of course, let's not forget also my guy DG Philo, that run down to Lacombe in the first race of the season. A beautiful pass on the outside. Let's see whether he can do that again. David Korb starting in 4th, don't discount him. And of course, from the 6th position, Alexei Usiakola, we'll see what he can do as well. Going to go racing in less than 20 seconds time. We are waiting for the cars to complete gridding up here at Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps. Track measures just over 7 kilometers in length with 21 turns. Now the lights coming on, the iRacing.com gantry, they'll stay on for a couple of seconds. We're green here at Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps. A lot of drivers going 3-4 wide now, so working their way down into turn number 1. They are 3 abreast, battling for the race lead, and Philo gets a good run out of La Source, and I have to say, as they work their way down into La Rouge, Marius, it could be the same once again. Philo on the attack as they work their way down into Lacombe.
Yeah, and Spindle had an absolutely terrible start there, coming down to La Source. He spun the wheels on the start, he's lost a couple of positions, and there's a bit of a fight back there already. Udaina Rumi made up a couple of positions, so great start by him, but we've got a battle at the top. Moga Philo trying it around the outside, no way, Stanaway just trying to hold it there. Now it's Davide Korps against Philo, and once again, Emil Spindle trying to reclaim his position there. It's Philo off.
Philo is off, and he's going to go right down now the field, and he's fallen into the 5th position there behind Enzo Benito. He tried, as I said, like he did in round number 1, to go around the outside into Lacombe. This time by Richie Stanaway would have nothing of it, and he's got himself already a 1.7 second gap over Davide Korps, who started this race in 4th, now up into 2nd. In 3rd, Emil Spindel. In 4th, Enzo Benito. In 5th is Mogo DG Philo. Udaina Rumi, though, from the 10th position. Look where he is. He's all the way up into the 6th position.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant start from the Japanese driver here, and it looks like this is exactly what Richie Stanaway has been hoping for. He had a little bit of an issue with Moga Philo there into Lacombe. He's been able to cling on to his first position, and now he's already got up to 1 second ahead of Davide Korb, and behind him Emil Spindel, Enzo Bonito, Moga Philo. They are all not really settled on their position yet, so Stanaway is in the brilliant position of breaking free from the pack.
Meanwhile, Christian Lorenz losing a position there too. Al Cordassa, and it looks as though Christian Lorenz actually all the way down the field in the 22nd position. Some people saying he's done a bit of a Roman Grosjean. Yoni Tamada working side by side with Ryan Derpstra as they come out of the bus stop chicane. Ahead of them, you've got battle between Vasily Zaitev and Paul Ilbrink, but as they complete lap number 1, Richie Stanaway from Davide Korps, a 1.1 second gap on the racetrack, a further 8 tenths per second back to Emil Spindel in 2nd, Enzo Benito in the 4th position, and Moga DG Philo right back now in the 5th position and losing a ton of ground in this battle for the 4th position as they work their way down the Kemmel straightaway again. We see Enzo Benito getting himself a very good draft. Will he try and make a move down to the inside? And you see there, Spindel blocking a little bit as they come down in. Benito wasn't going to go around the outside, but Spindel having to be defensive very early on here, Marius.
Yeah, and it really looks like Enzo Bonito went for the lowest possible downforce setting there, including, of course, setting the car as low as possible to the ground to get the best straight line speed, because judging on that, he's basically flown towards Emil Spindel there. He's been miles away and he's almost made it around the outside there. So it's going to be a really interesting thing to see if Enzo Bonito can stick through the turns, get out of Stavilo, get into Lacombe, and then try to make the pass before the braking, because that is really your main braking and main under-braking overtaking opportunity.
Yeah, you've got really 3 big passing zones on this racetrack. You have the run down to Lacombe. That is the more favoured, especially if you get a good run out of the La Source hairpin, then working for the Air Rouge Radion complex. You have a chance, perhaps down into the Fungi chicane, and then also into La Source as well. The bus stop chicane, normally too tight for drivers to make a move, and for the bus stops, really, it's a last-ditch effort if you're going to make a move down there, Marius.
Yeah, and Spa being one of the last classical F1 tracks, being merely, unchanged in big parts of the track since its creation. And it allows you a couple of positions to change, and we've got a little bit of a battle there going on in the mid-pack once again. For example, involving Simon Cattell there. He's been around his teammate Dave Geerling trying to follow him, and he had to back out a bit because it's not really too easy to follow here. But once again, we had the couple of overtaking opportunities listed up here, and we're going to see at least 3 or 4 of them working around as we are going to get the 44 laps done here. A very long race, a very hard race on the driver, because this track is just like one or another. And Yuda Narumi is fighting Moga Filo coming down to Lecombe.
Yeah, once again, you have Yuda Narumi and Moga Filo. I think that there might have been a tiny bit of damage as Filo bounced over the exit curve as they came out of Lecombe, because he hasn't had the speed since then. He had a good qualifying position, but Yuda Narumi all over the back of him.
Yeah, and brilliant start of the race for Udain, really. I mean, he came from 11th, he had the pole in the first round. It just seems that he got a bad qualifying today, but he's all back in shape. 4.7 seconds down the lead in place 5 now, and judging on how he's attacking this lap here, I mean, even with a little bit of a draft from Moga Filo, he's one of the quickest guys in the field here, so it's not going to be long until he's going to be at the rear of Enzo Bonito.
And this battle is to say for the 5th and 6th positions on the racetrack. However, Ricky Stanaway just eking out the gap a little bit over Davide Corps. He's now up to 1.3 seconds on the racetrack, and it looks as though Stanaway's car is set up to work better in sectors 3 and sector 1. That is where you have the long straightaways that run from the exit of Stavole all the way down to the bus stop chicane, and then from La Source all the way through the Camel straightaway to Lecombe. And if you're going to set up your car race, that probably is the best way, because it means that you're not going to be under attack unless you make a big mistake, either coming out of Lecombe or coming out of Stavole.
Yeah, and most of the time we're talking about finding a compromise here, and this is one of the major examples, really. You've got the very slow turn, you've got the bus stop, and you've got the La Source hairpin, and both of them are done without, really coasting. 70 kilometers an hour, 80 kilometers an hour, and imagine that in an F1 car. It's just a sheerly low amount of speed you carry through these turns. But then again, out of La Source, you mainly got about 20-25 seconds of full speed part there as you go through Eau Rouge and Radillon, and we see a battle between Vasily Zaitsev and Jason Lovett, and that shows one of the main overtaking opportunities. Lovett trying to close down the inside, trying to give Zaitsev the room he can afford, and Lovett missing it under braking. That's exactly what you shouldn't do. Prime example of a commentator's curse here. He's definitely going to get a slowdown for that. It's just going to be the question of how much time he's going to lose, because right behind these guys is already Joni Termel, and he's also got a brilliant start. He also didn't get a good qualifying, but from 22nd position he made up 10 places and is in 12th right now.
Yeah, and I think for Jason Lovett there, the way he took that slowdown penalty was very, very well done by him. Rather than just stamping on the brakes and losing those positions, he entered the next couple of corners a little bit slower, and that's how he was able to stay ahead of Vasily Zaitsev. Let's not forget, Zaitsev actually went a little bit wide in Lecombe as well, as he was reacting to Lovett going off the racetrack, and that is always one of the worst places you can see a car ahead of you going off the track, because you have no idea whether they're going to get back on in one piece. This, of course, is about for 10th and 11th positions on the racetrack. Joni Termel about 5 tenths of a second further back. Ryan Terpstra in 13th position, just about hanging on to him. When we talked to Ryan Terpstra last week, he was saying that he didn't like having cars right on his rear wing. It was affecting the balance of his car quite a lot. And he's trying to close down on this battle for 10th, 11th and 12th positions on the racetrack, which is Lovett, then Zaitsev, and then Joni Termel. Ahead of them, battling on the racetrack now between Dave Geerling and Moga Filo. Filo is going backwards in this race, and that 62 Radical car really looking as though something must have happened on that first lap to him. Maybe he just caught something, maybe got a tiny bit of damage to his wing, but that car is not handling as well as it was in qualifying. Yeah,
people suspecting in the spectator chat that, some of them are thinking he's got damage, some of them are thinking he's on a one-stop strategy. His straight line speed actually doesn't seem to be far off, but he's definitely too slow for the two-stopper here, so there could be a chance he's only on a one-stop strategy. Of course, that benefiting the other guys with around 1 second, 0.8 of a second per lap, because there's just so much difference between carrying the fuel for a one-stop or carrying the fuel for a two-stop strategy here at the Ardennes roller coaster at Spa-Francorchamps.
an issue, we believe, with Andrea Boldi, who's out of the race. Meanwhile, Jason Lover in the 48 car still is falling back now behind Vasily Zaitev, and that is in the battle for 10th and 11th position. Zaitev has been able to get past. I'm just going to have a look back and see what happened. We believe that was coming through Lecombe once again. He got a lot closer. He's actually ahead as they got into the braking zone for Lecombe. Looks as though they went too wide because he went a little bit wide into the corner. Lover was able to get a better run through the corner itself, but then they carried on running too wide and then ran the outside of the exit of Lecombe, who's able to complete the pass on that run down into Rivage, and a beautiful pass there by Vasily Zaitev.
Yeah, and behind him, Joni Tamala already seen his chance in Fanier as Lovett got a little bit sideways there, trying to get the weight shift onto the left hand of the turn. But behind them also Ryan Terpstra and Joao Cardoso together with Ken Leach closing up and closing in, of course, because this is going to take Jason Lovett a whole lot of time. And he just seems to struggle under braking, really. He's missed about 3 braking spots during this lap, and he's just holding up Joni Termela as behind him Joao Cardoso makes the move out of the bus stop chicane and gets the position from Ryan Terpstra. Now there's chance again for Terpstra into the first turn, but he's not risking it. There is a mild chance of trying to make a dive bomb here for the first turn, but how far Ryan Terpstra has been away there, there's simply been no chance. And will, by the looks of it, Joni Termela might be close enough here to make a move into Lecombe, and he's putting the car very sideways out of Raidillon there, hitting the curb, and that's going to hurt him a lot because now he's not going to be close enough. He's just going to make it try for the inside. No, not close enough. Draft just disappearing on the last couple of meters, and Termela stays in 12th.
Oh, I love what Termela did there. Even though he wasn't close enough to make the move, still put his car to the right-hand side just to try and unstep Jason Lover. And of course, he would have been seeing that battle with himself and Vasily Zaitev a couple laps back when Jason Lover was able to get a little bit ruffled. And that is one of the things at this racetrack. You can force the driver into a mistake here. Joni Termela in the 77 My 3AD car working his way around the racetrack at the moment in the 12th position. And to check in as well, actually, on Alexei Uziakola, he is currently all the way down in the 22nd position. And Marius, I believe he started this race actually from pit road, working down in 22nd, but trying to carve his way through the field.
Yeah, Alexei Uziakola being the main championship contender in the first 2 rounds, which he both won, so he came with 100 points out of the first 2 rounds, the maximum point achievement he could get. But by the looks of it, he's pretty much lost the interest in the series. He didn't race a couple of the races, and he's just trying to get the Pro Series, license, the DWC license really, to make it into the DWC. And yeah, it's a pity because he's really been one of the guys here to fight for the title. And by the looks, talking about the title here, Stanaway is getting more and more pressure from Davide Korb because, yeah, taking a look at the lap times, they are just amazingly close. And even behind them, Spindle, Bonito and Narumi, they aren't really off that, and it looks even that Mogafilo has found his pace again.
And also, drivers struggling a little bit. PJ Sturgis, after a great finish last week, all the way down in the 24th position. We believe that he had an incident on lap number 1. Sturgis is all the way down in the 24th spot in that 39 car at the moment. Marcus Caton a little bit off pace as well here today. Of course, Caton, one of those drivers trying to get into the top 25 at the moment. But to check back in on this race lead, David Corbs has now closed that gap down to less than 1 second between himself and Richie Stanaway. Enel Spindell is a further second, 1.1 seconds back. Enzo Bonito a further second back. But these top 5 drivers currently separated by less than 4 seconds on the racetrack. And Marius, we always say in the Pro Series that it comes down to pit stops, but right now, these 5 drivers are going to have to make sure that that pit stop is absolutely perfect, especially if they got 2 of them.
Yeah, absolutely. And for the regular viewers, of course, we had the Road to America race on a couple of rounds earlier. And if you can imagine, we had this exact four-way battle for the lead there. So we had Stanaway and De Korb there being on a one-stop strategy, and Spindle and I think it even has been Filho, so it's not exactly the same. But they've been on a 2-stop. And it all comes down to what you do on the pit stop, what you do on the pit road, and you have to just nail the pit stop. And in the end, it didn't matter because all of them just finished within mere couple of seconds, and by the looks of it now, they are now completing the 7th lap here, a lap time being around the 1:50 mark here, so 12.5 minutes done. The top 5 are still within 3.5 seconds, and that is pretty unique for the series because we always say it's easy to follow, but then again, these guys are so far on the limit that it's just too easy to lose a couple of tenths per lap.
And of course, the field a little bit closer than it was 1 week ago at Watkins Glen as well, when Richie Stanaway just absolutely dominated in the race as well. Meanwhile, checking in once again on Yorni Tamada in the 77 car, working his way on Jason Lovett, and it looks as though, in fact, Tamada's looking down to the outside once again as they run into Lacoum, and he's now far enough ahead that he should at least get a good run into the corner, last late breakers, and Jason Lovett slots it back down the inside, and I have to say, Marius, Lovett is absolutely magical on the breaks down into Lacoum.
Yeah, I wouldn't have agreed to you 2 or 3 laps ago, because Lovett tended to miss every of the braking spots, or at least the heavy braking spots he came to. But by the looks of it, he seems to work under pressure really well, and Terminal looking more and more racy. It really looks like he's got the speed for this now, setting Jason Lovett under pressure, and of course remembering Vasily Zaitsev being in the 10th position ahead of Lovett and Terminal. He's been passing Lovett 2 laps ago, and he's already about 2 seconds away of them, so it really gets about time that Yorni Terminal is getting past Jason Lovett.
And of course, these drivers have got tools in the car which they can use. They have the opportunity to move the brake gears front or rear, and also they have the opportunity to change the diff in car as well on both the entry, middle and exit. And most, not a lot of drivers use this all the time, but if you've got a car which is locking up all over the place and missing the apexes, you can play about those in-car tools just a little bit to try and refine the balance, especially as the fuel goes down and those tyres start wearing out.
Yeah, it's, back in the days when I ran the Pro Series in 2011, it's basically been the state of the art that you had to confirm and you had to update your differential settings during the race. We're going to take a look at what Unai Narumi does, remembering he came from 11th, and he seems to have found a good setup for the race, so he's exactly got the right rhythm here, trying to attack Enzo Bonito right now on the outside as well. We've seen this with Yorni Tamala against Jason Lovett. What does Unai Narumi do? And it looks better for him. It's very close, but very aggressive, and he just makes this work. And so far, what an absolutely brilliant drive from Narumi.
That was a perfect, and I was actually going to come back to this. Of course, Yuda Narumi is one of those drivers not represented by one of these mass teams. The Nexus Esports team are a much newer team into iRacing, especially into the Pro Series, and in many ways, Narumi is kind of alone in his championship quest here, but that might have had an impact on his qualifying, especially as, you know, you've got to go down one direction for qualifying, one direction for the race, but race pace here today, Narumi's speed has been magical. Now up into the 4th position by passing Enzo Bonito, a perfect pass on the outside of Lacoum. That is textbook perfect to how you do it. But I think for Narumi there, he's kind of surprised a lot of people. But let's not remember, at Spa the first time around, he had good pace there as well.
Yeah, he definitely had the chance of winning this race at the first round, but it looks like he's very comfortable at Spa, so he must have had a strong setup to begin with, and now of course getting a strong setup once again, and he's definitely one of the quickest guys in the field. And you said it, the big teams of course still supporting drivers like Richie Stanaway, Emil Spindle being Team Redline, and CST Ajira, of course Mogafilo from Team Radicals. They all left their drivers in the DWC, but for Yuda Narumi with Nexus Esports, he's pretty much alone on this quest, and I'm pretty sure that's going to call a couple of the big teams just to keep an eye out for these young drivers, because so far, coming from 11th into 4th, no matter how good the start was, no matter how much positions he made up because people failed, this is still an absolutely brilliant effort because this field is just so amazingly close.
And let's not forget, the esports guys have got a lot of variety in their team as well. And Nico Brandt, for example, one of the best IndyCar road drivers we see at the moment, Matthew Lambert and Mike Larson, drivers there who are very competent on the ovals. But Narumi doing it proud for the Nexus Esports team up into the 4th position. Meanwhile, Ken Leash is up into the 14th position, and a big slide there as they came out the bus stop chicane. Also, Alexei Yakola moved himself now up into the 21st position by passing Jesper Pedersen. However, the gap between Yakola and Hal Pinner, the next car on the racetrack, is a total of 19 seconds. I think that now Yakola's in clean air, Marius, he was just going to set some blistering lap times, and that would only last for about 9-10 laps. He'll be right back into the picture.
Yeah, he's just looking for getting a quiet race there, really. He started from the pits trying to secure his license there, so all he needs to do is finish inside the top 25. But judging on his speed, he's definitely got the shot at least making it into the top 20 here. Of course, still being around 20 seconds off that right now. But we've got a long race, and we've got about 34 laps to go here. 44 lap race, one of the longest we have in the calendar, and definitely one of the most exciting for now, because Enzo Bonito is still challenging Yuda and Narumi, and they all aren't really losing that much on Richie Stanaway, because Stanaway can't really focus on his driving because he's getting more and more pressure from De Korp and Spindler.
And we were asked on Twitter when we had the first broadcast here just how important it is to make that pass into Lacombe. And it is pretty big, because after that, Marius, you have the second sector of the lap, you get that horrible dirty air effect. Normally these cars drop back about 3-4 tenths on the racetrack, and then you've got to do the work all over again from Stavelot all the way down to the bus stop chicane, then down into Lacombe, into Eau Rouge. And when you piece it together, if you've got a chance to make a pass on Lacombe, you're going to have to take it, otherwise you're waiting an entire other lap to have a chance once again.
Yeah, and we're currently bringing you the fight for the 4th position here, of course, keeping in mind there are other fights going on the track, of course, heating up for the top 3 as well. But it just looks like Bonito and Yuda and Narumi, I really like these guys. I must say, they are really showing off they're just the finest bit of racing here, and throughout the season they've all had their highs and lows, but these guys have just shown a brilliant pace and a brilliant couple of races here. And it seems that with Yuda and Narumi and Enzo Bonito, they've both found their master, because it doesn't look that Narumi is getting away from Bonito much, and therefore not really closer to the top 3. And it might not have been bad for Enzo Bonito, because now he's got the kind of a ghost car ahead of him, a car to chase, a car to just focus your eyes on, and they are just so similar on pace that Enzo Bonito is just trying everything to hold on to that right now, because if he loses the draft to Yuda and Narumi, he's basically out of the top 5, out of the top 4 question.
Yeah, and that draft effect is huge here. With those 2 long straightaways, you can gain yourself quite a little bit of time as Benito actually going a little bit sideways. That's going to hurt himself on the run down into La Source. And Alexei Isiakovic, check back in on him. That last lap time, he was 0.9 seconds a lap faster than Hal Pino. So the gap is coming down, perhaps not as much as we expected it to. Maybe Iakona's on a one-stop strategy, just wanting to bring that car home. Keep an eye out on him as he has the chance to qualify for the 2013 Grand Prix World Championship Series today. Benito taking a lot of exit curve as they came out of Gradion. They'll run down to Lacombe once again. Your top 5, Richie Stanaway now with a 1.1 second gap over David De Korp. It's kind of been about all race long. De Korp was able to close it down to less than a second, about 5-10 laps ago, but right back now, it's up to 1.1 seconds on the racetrack. And Spindel in 3rd, Narumi in 4th, Enzo Bonito in 5th. And we're going to right back and have a look at Yoni Tamani. He's working his way on the outside into Lacombe once again. But this time, he's going to go complete the pass. And love that, missed the braking zone once again, Marius.
Yeah, once again, he didn't really miss it. He was basically too early this time, and the last time we've seen it relatively aggressive from Jason Levitt, so he pretty much relied on Joni Tärmöller not trying to make it work on the outside. But with this time and with this maneuver, basically Joni Tärmöller now in the free air, and once again, 4 laps ago, Vasily Zaitsev got past Jason Levitt, and he's 5 seconds away from these guys already. So you see how much a driver would lose who's just a little bit faster. And if the aim for Tärmöller is to get into the top 10, he's got a whole lot of work to do, because Jason Levitt definitely held him up for a couple of laps. And the next one to challenge Levitt now is Joao Cardoso, who also seems a bit faster.
And that will come into the picture, especially if you have drivers on a one-stop strategy versus drivers on a two-stop strategy. The drivers on a one-stopper, we know, will be on worn tyres while the two-stop guys come onto the pit road. And we expect them to come in the next couple of laps or so. But it's going to be interesting to see how that one plays out. But yeah, Tormana really has to now put the power down and try and close up to the rear of Vasily Zaitsev, who's currently running in the 10th position. Zaitsev actually looking as though he's closing down Paul Ilbrink in the battle for the 9th position. Last time by, Zaitsev at 1 minute 48.5 compared to a 1 minute 48.9 for Paul Ilbrink as they come past the start finish line once again. This time a little bit closer, still Paul Ilbrink losing a couple of hundredths of a second on the racetrack. But I have to go back to Mogar DG Philo. I've got a feeling you could be right that Philo is on a one-stop race.
Yeah, so he's basically got into his race, and we're going to take a look again. This is exactly what I said half a lap ago. Now it is Jason Levitt against Joao Cardoso. The same situation we had with Tärmöller. Cardoso being around the outside. And now Jason Levitt has apparently found his braking point again, not giving Joao Cardoso any chance to get past on the outside, not even giving him a chance to get next to him on the entry. So Cardoso has to try it once again, and by the looks of it, no one has really been close enough for the bus stop yet. No one's been close enough for La Source, and it really looks like Lecombe is the only really good opportunity to overtake here.
Yeah, I said that you could pass down into the final chicane, but you have had a really good run out of Pouin and hope that the car ahead of you makes a little bit of mistake, perhaps going a little bit wide, missing their entry into that corner so fast through that section of the racetrack. And I have to say as well, these drivers are doing staggering paces right now. Narumi right now still having the charge of his life, and Narumi is actually in a very similar position to what PJ Sturgis was in last week, having a standout drive. I had to say though that these cars, as they're working away around the racetrack, a little bit more spread out now. Ryan Turpin, for example, he's fallen back to 2 seconds behind that battle for 12th, 13th positions on the racetrack. Now they stop fighting, under pressure a little bit from Ken Leach in 15th position. Out front, however, that gap between Stanaway and De Corps up to 1.4 seconds. And we've seen this before. Those last 5 or so laps before Stanaway makes a pit stop, he does stretch his legs, and that gap really does shoot up.
Yeah, that's exactly what we've been talking to. So again, shout out to the regular viewers. You probably know what's coming up now. Richie Stanaway just seems to get into his race rhythm, being about 20% of the race in, or at least about half of his stint. So the first couple of laps, if you want to challenge the Stanaway, you might want to do it right there, because now, even though Davide Korb and Emil Spindel are trying, they are losing about a 10 for 2 per lap, but that's just enough to secure him to maybe about 2 seconds when the pit stop comes. So this is exactly what Stanaway is trying now. I wonder if it's the tires. I wonder if he's just a bit more conservative on the tires in the beginning, and then trying to break it out on the last couple of laps on his stint. But we can see this in many races so far. The last couple of laps in a stint are definitely the ones for Richie Stanaway, being the fastest driver of the field right now, the first one to break into the 147s with a 147.962, right ahead of Yudaina Rumi, who's the second fastest right now, and no surprise, he's gaining a lot on Emil Spindel and Davide Korb.
Yep, indeed, and don't forget you can get in contact with us on Twitter all race long. Use the hashtag IRRoadPro. Big shout out to Pretorius Cotavara, also to Daniel Lopez, and also to the guys at Motors TV watching us from the Autosport International show. So a big shout out to you as well. Currently working away on lap number 15 now out of 44 here, as we've pit road starting to get full. We've got ourselves Yudaina Rumi, the first of the drivers onto pit road, and for Narumi, that is going to mean he's going to have to do a longer middle stint. Perhaps that's why he had so much speed early on in this race, Marius.
Yeah, it really seems like he's on a very early first stop here. So basically we'd expect the guys here earliest point, lap 15, which is the one Yudaina Rumi goes in now, but definitely around 16 or 17. So usually you try to make the first stop the long you can, but it might work for Yudaina Rumi right now, because he's basically got a brilliant start. He made it work, and so he's got the chance. He's got the chance to make the first stint, which was relatively short, to work. And now he's getting out of the pits in front of Andrea Baldi, who is lapped, so he's not going to be a danger for him, and he's got free track ahead of him. Yeah, and that's important as well, the fact he got out ahead of Andrea Baldi. Even though he'll probably get past immediately, you still lose yourself about half a second. The gap between Yudaina Rumi and his closest competitor now is Miguel Martin. He's about 5-6 seconds up the road, and that means he's in clean air. And when you put that into perspective, that is important, man. It's the last thing you're going to want if you do that early stop is come out into traffic, because you lose all of that advantage. You're going to have to do the work all over again. That worked out perfectly for Yudaina Rumi. And I remember the McLaren Formula 1 team have this random graphic where they show exactly where the cars are, so they know the most opportune time to pit. Perhaps Yudaina Rumi's pit crew have been doing that here today. Going to check back in on this battle for second and third position on the racetrack. You've got Davide Korb in the 58 car. He's currently sat in second. He's got Emil Spindel just less than a second behind him, about 0.6 of a second back. Spindel's been there about all race long, and it does look as though to me that Spindel's just kind of patiently waiting for his time. Yeah, and just to get back on the pit strategy there, if you are in the position of Yudaina Rumi, so you basically had your first pit stop already, you need to get right back in the rhythm. And especially when the track is free, of course it has its advantages, because you're not running into dirty air, but you want to just get back in the rhythm. And we've got another car down pit road, Dave Geeling together with his teammate right now, Jason Levitt, coming down pit road. And once again, we haven't really talked much about these guys, but it's looking very good for Dave Geeling at least. Levitt being under the trouble of Zaitsev, Termel and Cardoso early on. But for the INEX drivers, it looks good, because talking about their teammate again, PJ Sturgis, who had a great race at Watkins Glen, is in trouble. So he's been in a bit of trouble in the first couple of laps, and now is down to place 22. Overall, as a team, a very strong show once again, together with Dave Geerling and Jason Lovett. Yeah, quite solid in the top 10 for Geerling and just outside the top 10 for Lovett, and they've both been down pit road for the first stop.
Wes Richards also making that trip onto pit road in the 43 CST Azura car, working his way back onto the racetrack. Wes Richards, one of those drivers who's trying to get himself into the top 25, was in the 19th position before he came down pit road, now back out onto the racetrack. And anyway, moving on, back into first position, Richie Stanaway still working his way on the racetrack. We expect pit road to come very busy in the next couple of laps. Stanaway first, the Corp second, Emil Spindell in the third position, and the Benito in fourth, Mogo DG Filo in the fifth spot. Meanwhile, Alexei Yusiakola fighting now with Sturgis in the battle for the 20th position on the racetrack, and it looks as though Sturgis has actually been able to get past Yakola there. Pit road busy now. David Corps onto pit road. Spindell onto pit road. Richie Stanaway stays out. So Stanaway's pace even more impressive at the start of this race. Benito also onto pit road. Simon Cattell onto pit road as well. And we're going to check in with David Corps. He needs to have a good pit stop. Spindell right behind him as they're both into their pit boxes now. Nicely in, and Spindell didn't get in properly there. He had to go a little bit further forward. This is going to help David Corps as they fill back up. The Corps away quicker there than Spindell, who's now back onto the racetrack. Benito not that far behind as they work their way on the inside of La Source, but costly mistake there perhaps for Emil Spindell, as he's also now got a car between himself and David Corps, and that is Miguel Martin, who's in the 79 car on the racetrack.
Yeah, and Miguel Martin not being the only one right there. Yuda Narumi basically lost all of his good momentum in the first stint, so he's down about 3 seconds behind Bonito and Spindle. Remember, he's been in front of Bonito right before the first stop, and that would probably mean, in my opinion, that he definitely had to fuel more. So first of all, his pit stop took longer. Second of all, he's carrying more fuel now, so that's not going to exactly help him. Whatever he needs to do, he needs to get back in the rhythm, and he needs to get into Bonito as soon as he can, because if he manages that, he's got the upper hand for the last pit stop.
Alexei Yusiakola, PJ Sturgis came in together, come out together. Yakola saying, please fix my car. We'll see whether he's doing a little bit of wiggle as he comes up pit road, see if there's any changes to it. Having a look at Richie Stanaway in the meanwhile on the racetrack, one of these drivers who haven't yet pitted, but Stanaway now into pit road. It's down to 37 miles an hour, and this is one of the longest pit roads and also one of the slowest pit roads of the Pro Series, which really does make a difference if you do the 1-2 stop strategy. Does option more opportunities for him, but Stanaway now onto pit road. We'll see when he stops on his pit box, of course. I'll have pit stop number 1 once again, so a nice easy run out for him, and into his pit box nicely, perfectly once again for Stanaway, getting himself 4 fresh tyres and topping up with race gas as well. Jacks are down, first gear, away he goes, back out onto the racetrack. Richie Stanaway, perfect stop by him. And having a look back, David Cox now just coming through that source. It looks like Stanaway, in fact, has increased his gap there.
Yeah, not just Stanaway increased his gap, but also it looks like Yuda Narumi is going to lose another position. No, he might not, because now he gets the run down to Eau Rouge. And however, Filho gained a couple of seconds there. He's got a brilliant pit stop, and he's obviously going to go for a shorter middle stint here, judging on his pit time. And he's right at the tail of Yuda Narumi. Watch out, Moga, tire still being caught. You're right out of the pit, so don't overdrive it right now. He's side by side with Yuda Narumi right now. We've seen this a couple of times, and it just makes it too easy for Moga Filo. And now almost running into his back there on the exit, but under the braking, Filo just went straight past.
Yeah, under braking. I think Narumi gave him that position. I don't think at first he expected him to make that pass, but in the end, I think he just let him go right in the end. And as I'm saying, Filo did brake incredibly late, running on that left-hand side curb through Lacombe and almost overshot the corner, but a good pass there by Mogo DG Filo, and we're seeing a lot more passing than we have seen at a previous couple of rounds in this race. Mogo DG Filo kind of recovering a little bit now. I don't know what happened in his first stop at all, but Yuda Narumi going back a little bit, and it does show that by pitting early you have to have a longer fuel stop, and unless Narumi is done all the way to the top to perhaps have a much shorter final stint, then all that hard work is kind of coming unglued for him now.
And yeah, you said it basically. The only thing you can hope for really with making a short first stint is if the guys ahead of you have trouble, if they run into traffic or if they lose the time, however, you get the longer middle stint and you get the short last stint as well. So you got the upper hand for the middle stint because you've obviously got more fuel, you can run longer, but you're still right close. So for the last stint, you're obviously going to go shorter, and that makes the pit stall time shorter, and the time obviously you need for pit in out shorter as well. So it's going to be the upper hand if you make it work, but by the looks of it, Yudan Narumi with the first stint being short, he was about 4 seconds behind Richie Stanaway. Of course, Stanaway had a long pit stop, so he's lost about 4 seconds there on the pit stop, and he's lost 2 positions. And yeah, comparing that against Philo now, Philo gained the position, but he's 3 seconds down to Enzo Bonito, and that's going to hurt him.
Indeed, yes. And don't forget, there are a number of drivers who can qualify this race for the Grand Prix World Championship Series. Simon Kittel is the first of these drivers, but meanwhile, having a look straight over to Jason Lover in the 48 car, side by side there with Ryan Terpstra as they come down into Lacombe. Terpstra managing to complete the pass there on the outside. Is going to be side by side once again. Love it. Almost running into the rear there of Ryan Terpstra, but losing another position there. Terpstra up now into the 14th position. He's one of those drivers who's kind of on the bubble. He might not be able to qualify today, but will put himself in a good position in 1 week's time at Suzuka, the final round of the championship. But as I was saying before that, Simon Kittel has a chance to qualify today. He's sat in 9th position. With that, he will qualify. PJ Sturgios, disappointing showing by him. He's currently sat 7th in the championship, but 21st position. He might just about to make it. Yudan Narumi, of course, a good showing by him. We talked a lot about him. Tego Afaro in the 18th spot. Difficult showing by him once again. And of course, Alexei Yusiakoda has the chance to qualify here today as well. However, it's down in the 22nd position on the racetrack. Importantly, however, none of these guys have retired from the race. Max Alorco, Timo Even, and Fabio De Carmo, Christian Lorenz, and Marcus Caton all out of the race. And Marius, these are all drivers who are right on the bubble.
Yeah, absolutely, and we're definitely talking about a couple of groups of drivers, really. So you got the constant sort of top 10, top 5 drivers, Stanaway, Spindle, Philo, Decor, Bonito, even Usiakola, if you would just be bothered to race, Yudan Narumi as well, and these guys usually make it into the top 5, top 10 at least. And yeah, down there, you've still got a couple of drivers like Simon Kittel, PJ Sturgis, Dave Geeling, the drivers who usually finish inside the top 10, but they do have to work for it. So they do have to have a good race. If they don't, they finish outside the top 10, but still it's kind of the upper middle pack. And then follows a big pack there with drivers who just finish by collecting points, really. And Ryan Terpstra is a prime example of that. And we're going to go to Ken Leach for a second, because once again we see a pass here against Miguel Martin, at least a trying of a pass there around the outside, but this time it is Miguel Martin missing the braking point. That is exactly what happened to Lovett earlier, but Miguel Martin definitely missed it a bit more because he's overshot his braking point. He's went straight and luckily yeah, didn't get involved with Ken Leach there, so Leach made a clean pass. And these two, once again, Miguel Martin and Ken Leach, also a prime example for these mid-pack point collectors who just run the race to make the maximum sort of points. They don't have a shot at winning the championship, so might as well just go in for the points and secure your DWC license, and that's really what it's about.
Yeah, and you've got in there 2 different examples of that as well. You have people like Leach, like Martin, like Terpstra, who, you know, just race on the racetrack and now take whatever position that's given to them. Pierre Brito, by the way, managing to make his way now up into lap 20. We'll come back to that in a moment there. But we believe that he is on a 1-stopper there with 11.8 second pit stop. We thought that Mogo Di Filo was on a 1-stopper. We don't think is anymore. That pit stop was way too short. He perhaps reverted to a 2-stopper there, realising just how much time he was losing with that full tank of fuel earlier on in this race. But you've got people, for example, like Wes Richards is a prime example. Just start from the rear of the field, make up positions, try and get yourself into the top 25. It's not fully worked out for him, but as we come to Suzuka and a lot more on the line, perhaps he might be able to sneak his way into the top 25. And a couple of the fans, you know, don't like that approach of just starting from the rear and just trying to gain points. They like to see racing, and I have to say, drivers this season really have stood out for me. People like PJ Sturgios, people like Jason Lovett and Simon Lovett even, and also people like Paul Lilbrink as well. Of every race we've had, Marius, they're always in the thick of the action.
Yeah, and it just emphasize the factor that you just need to collect points. You're obviously no contender for the championship here, so whatever you do, don't try to go too aggressive to it, but just try to get the points. And we talked about this together with the Pro Trials already. You've got so much races there, so much different racetracks. You're obviously going to find one of them which you don't like, and you're obviously going to find at least one of them which you do like. So whatever you do, just try to collect the points. I try to make the statement here that it's never been so easy to obtain your DWC license. Once again, it's not really the fair amount of drivers, but also down the mid-pack, the battles are just insane, because the drivers are so close together, and just by collecting the points, really, you make a brilliant shot at getting it into the DWC next season. And so far, we've got a couple of drivers who tried this already, and who usually drive the Class A Formula 1 series, which of course needs to be done to get the pro license at first. But these drivers have been here for a couple of seasons, and they all know how it's done. And they are the prime example of the points collectors. They are the prime example of just trying to get it into the DWC and then kicking it off there. Max Delorco, for example, Alexi Usiakola as well. Very fast drivers, but they just do what they can to get into the DWC and then try to make it work there.
Checking in on the battle for the 19th and 20th positions on the racetrack. This is Pierre Abruzzo and Hal Pinot. Pinot, last time by 1 minute 50.155 compared to 1 minute 50.459 for Pierre Abruzzo. One of the best battles we have going on the racetrack. And we had a question asked to us the other day as to how we know who was the Grand Prix World Championship Series drivers from last year, who is it who made their way up to the Pro Series. Very simply, the drivers who are in the Pro Series were in the top 10 of either the Season 1, Season 2, Season 3, A-Class Grand Prix Series on iRacing, and they have the higher numbers. The drivers with the lower numbers, for example, Emil Spindel is the first one that comes to mind. They were in the Grand Prix World Championship Series last year, and that is why they have a lower number. They've taken the number from the Grand Prix World Championship Series, now into the Pro Series, keep exactly the same. The newer drivers have the higher numbers on the racetrack. Richard Stanaway now has a 2.1 second gap over David Korp in the battle for the race lead, as we're working our way on lap number 23 now of 44, so half race distance complete. David Korp's in second, Emma Spin down in third, Enzo Benito in fourth, and Mogar DG Filo rounding out your top five. Yunan Narumi in sixth, Dave Geelink in seventh, Simon Kittel in eighth, Paul Ilbrink in ninth, and Vasily Zaitev is rounding out your top 10, sat in the 10th position, and he's just having a good drive actually. Hal Kodasik in 11th, and Yoni Tamara in 12th. And Tamara really has lost out in that series of pit stops as well. Now way outside the top 10, and he's got 10 seconds to make up to try and get himself back to there.
Yeah, and if you're just tuning in right now, we're basically at the half of the race here. And if you're thinking, wow, they are showing us a replay here, we had this already. No, you didn't. This is the second race here at Spa-Francorchamps, the 9th out of 10 races in the Pro Series 2012-2013 here. The drivers are trying to qualify for the Drivers' World Championship next season, starting in around 2 months. And yeah, the prime competition here in the iRacing service, of course. The best drivers here trying to obtain the spots for the best series, the most sanctioned series, with once again over $10,000 in prize money. And yeah, if you're not worth practicing for that, then I don't know, just go for it, try to get your spot. And yeah, if you see this right now, maybe this is going to be something for you. The next Pro Series, of course, being at the end of this year, so it starts in around October, November. And if you're interested in that, just visit iRacing.com, try to get your membership. It's yeah, basically almost free already. The membership prices are being deducted from $12 to $6. You're going to find a couple of promo codes around, and just try to get your shot, try to make it into the Pro Series. And sometimes, well, I think it just looks easier than it is.
Yes, it does, indeed. And one of my teammates, David Ward, actually, is trying to qualify for the 2013 Pro Series. We have seen that's not always the route you have to take. Quintana Tale, for example, is going to be a 2013 Grand Prix World Championship Series driver. Didn't do the Pro Series at all. He was able to jump the ladder. He's an exceptional case, however, and importantly, you have to race your way up as well. It's not something that you can just come in and immediately be the best going. And it's very rare that we see drivers immediately being able to qualify either the Pro Series or the Grand Prix World Championship Series. Drivers having to work at it hammer and tongue for a number of years. Richard Stanaway, 1.8 second gap still over David Korps, and that battle for the race lead. Once again, Stanaway and cold tyres lost himself a little bit of ground, but now trying to turn that wick up a little bit. His fastest lap of the race in that number 72 red line car was set on lap number 13 at 1 minute 47.9. One of the very few drivers actually been able to get into the 1 minute 47s all race long.
And there appears to be a problem with Enzo Bonito, and I wonder what exactly is going on, because he's rolled out, he's stalled the car, and he's basically stopped in the asphalt zone on the left of Le Combe. So he's been there for a couple of seconds already, and he's found his way back on the track, and that just looks like a hardware issue to him, because he's dropped from 4th to 14th, and he's lost about half a minute there, so it's obviously not going to be done freely. So I wonder if that's going to be a hardware issue for Enzo Bonito.
Yeah, and that's going to be hugely disappointing. And of course, Enzo Bonito was up in the 4th position, now all the way down the field, and that will promote Margot Di Fido up into 4th, and will also promote Yudo Narumi back into the top 5. But to go back to Yudo Narumi, we saw this with PJ Sturgis last week, having a standout drive. Yudo Narumi was always good at Spa, and you talked about how this track that some drivers don't like. Spa is one of those tracks that a lot of drivers love. Always one of the most popular tracks on the iRacing service, and for some of these drivers, they have done so many laps around here. Yudo Narumi really showing that this perhaps is his favourite track.
Yeah, and so it's definitely a bad thing for Yudo Narumi that yeah, he's basically had to retire from his early good goings at the top 5. So with an early pit stop here, he's run into a lot of trouble, and it looks like with the heavy middle stint he's not really doing himself a favor there, because he came from being 3 seconds down to top 3, and now he's all the way down 7 seconds to Emil Spindel, and yeah, the train to the top 3 is basically left the station for Yudo Narumi.
Working their way is Enzo Bonito back into Air Rouge, putting a ton of pressure on Jason Lover in what is now the battle for the 13th position, looking to go to the left-hand side as they work their way down into Le Combe once again. And it's going to be the last of the late breakers, and Enzo Bonito alongside, and you see that Lover just giving him the position there. He didn't want to do any braking manoeuvres once again, and I think he might have hurt his tyres a little bit by going hammer and tongue of those drivers in the first stint, putting him way down the field now into the 13th position and 41 seconds behind the race leader. Importantly, however, once again, we're having ourselves a very clean race. Only returns we have are Marcus Capiton, Christian Laurent, Fabio De Carmo, Timo Even and Magdal Orco. And with the exception of Watkins Gun last week, where, I don't know, the drivers must have been driving on acid or something, it has been a very clean series, and we saw this the last time we were here as well. A very low attrition rate.
Yeah, I'm really surprised, to be honest. It might be due to the guys who are really running, yeah, not exactly next to each other for the big part of the lap. They're basically just following themselves. But yeah, if it comes to the battles, really, the guys just treat each other with respect, and excluding the last round, which has been a bit weird there, all of the races have been very clean so far. And yeah, taking a look once again at the lead, yeah, lap 26, Richie Stanway still leading the pack here, 45 minutes done, bit over half of the race, so dominant performance by the New Zealand driver here for Team Redline again. Davide Korb in second, just 1.9 seconds down, so yeah, you can't really call this dominating, but Richie Stanway just trying all he can here to extend the lead, but so far Davide Korb is able to follow him. Emil Spindel as well in 3rd position, 3.4 seconds down the lead, 1.5 down Davide Korb. This is definitely not decided yet, and I'd just like to recall Road to America yet. We've been saying for, yeah, let's say during the half of the race, we were, yeah, unsure of how it's going to play out and who's going to be able to get into the top 3, but it's going to be more certain this time. It's definitely going to be Stanway against the Korb against Spindel, but in which order or what is going to happen at half of the race, now absolutely unsure.
And to check back in on that battle of Enzo Bonito and Jason Lover, of course, those two are both INX Racing drivers, and perhaps, you know, Bonito still looking for a solid top 10 finish in the championship. Perhaps Lover just let him pass, a nice friendly move there by a teammate to a teammate. Knowing that Bonito has been so much faster, of course, having his issues at Le Combe a couple of laps back, Nice little move there by Jason Lover, but Benito's been able to pull out a 1.7 second gap in just a couple of laps over his 48 car teammate of Jason Lover. So working away around the racetrack once again. Richie Stanaway, that gap is kind of hovering around that 2-second window. And to come back to this, David Corpse hasn't had bad pace here at all today. It just looks as though the in-lap, pit stop and out-lap, Stanaway has really worked on these previous couple of races, and he's just been absolutely phenomenal there, and that's the only time really that the Corpse has lost any time.
Yeah, and I wonder how it's going to be for the second stop, but taking a look at the lap times of these two guys, it's just, they are going like clockwork there, and taking a look at Stanaway, last 3 laps, 48.1, 47.9, 48.0, for Davide Korb 48.2, 47.9 and another 47.9, and also for Spindle 48.2, 47.8 and 48.1. If you add all these up, you're gonna get to less than 100 of a difference there in the 3-lap average. And even Morgan Philo has found his pace again, because he's also down into the 0.1.0, and these guys are just going at it as much as they can, because this is really the time of the race. You're either gonna gain, you're gonna optimize your chance of getting it really up into the top 3, or maybe even getting the race victory, or this is the time where you lose it, because once you get to the last pit stop, it's just going to be a race towards the finish, and if you're not close enough, then you'll probably never will.
Ryan Terpstra taking 11th position there from Yorni to 1, and Ryan Terpstra is having a very good race here today, moving himself now up into the 11th position. As I said, he had a little bit of issue at Watkins Glen with cars right behind him, which meant he was a lot slower than he was running in clean air. However, for Terpstra, so he qualified this race all the way down to the 20th position. And Marius, this could be a very good result there for the young driver in the 56 car.
Yeah, not only for the 56, but also the 77 car of Joni Termele. Just like to say a little info there. 77 is exactly the number I've been using in the Pro Series, so it must have been a lucky number for him, at least in the race. Still, these guys coming from way down the grid. Ryan Terpstra started in 20th, and Joni Termele started in 22nd. So a brilliant start by both of them, but it's not only a brilliant start, you have to maintain it, and those two guys did. They are still going to get the pressure now from Enzo Bonito, who's chasing them by a rate of yeah, about a second per lap almost. So Ryan Terpstra actually has a problem there. He's into the wall, out of the last turn. That is a very rare mistake, and it's bad, really well. It's really bad, and he's completely lost it out of the turn, and we're just going to get you a replay of that momentarily. But it looks like race over for Ryan Terpstra, and that is absolutely unfortunate.
Yeah, indeed, and it was coming out of Lacombe, and he didn't even run the curve there, and it's very unusual for cars to get snap oversteer when they're by themselves coming out of the last source hairpin. I'm going to get a replay up on your screen momentarily, but this is Ryan Terpstra in the 56 car, and as I said, just before that, he was having a standout performance here today. Marius, going to hand it over to you, down into turn number 1. We're going to start a replay from the exit Blanchimont, but yeah.
Yeah, just taking a look at what exactly happened to Ryan Terpstra there. He looked solid, so he's not been struggling for the last couple of laps, so he's got past Joni Termele like a charm, and he's going past the bus stop now, going onto the finish straight, braking for the source now. It all looks fine right now, getting the car into the turn nicely, going on the gas, it all looks fine, but then it just soaps away. It soaps him away into the wall, and it's looking very weird, because he's basically got a brief amount of slip, and he's got the rest of the traction back. He's been almost out of the turn, but then the slip kicks in, and then it kicks him into the wall, and that's surely going to be enough damage to put him out of the race, and it is like that, DNF for Ryan Terpstra, and that's going to be a big yeah, catch of breath there for Joni Termele, because he's just been gifted his position back.
Yep. And that is really unfortunate, as I say, for Ryan Terpstra, and he is going to be trudging that down to pit road, probably keeping his helmet on, not wanting to speak to anyone. But meanwhile, David Corbs is kind of closing that gap just a little bit down. Last time by a 1 minute 47.725 for David Corbs. He's on fire right now.
Yeah, it's amazing. We're often talking about how dominant Richie Stanaway has been in the last couple of races, which is of course true. He's just been dominating them, but it shows once again he's really not the only one being so fast here. It just comes down to the track combo, and if you take a look at this now, if you take a look at Motegi or Spa, which have both been won by Alex Usiakola the first 2 rounds of the season, it's it's got many couple of winners here. Moga Philo, of course, being one of the main contenders. Udain and Rumi being awfully quick today, just being a bit of a wrong strategy for him. Enzo Bonito struggling today. But it is still David de Korp, your quickest man of the race. And David's been very strong on Road to America. We had him in the interview in the post-race section there. And he's been very strong there. So it looks like he's got a whole bunch of confidence from the last couple of rounds. Struggling a bit in the last lap. So Stanaway has posted another 0.7. Meanwhile, David de Korp with a little mistake down to 48.3. But Emil Spindle not quite able to follow these guys. Yeah, losing about a 10th per lap in average. So if Emil Spindle is not able to follow them, it just shows how quick these guys are going. And it once again is the time of Richie Stanaway now, because we're expecting the next pit stop to come either this or the next lap, depending on how much the guys fueled, of course. But this is the time Richie Stanaway is posting the brilliant lap times. And this half second David de Korp's lost in the last lap might as well be the neck breaker for him.
Meanwhile, we believe that David de Korp is going to come down towards pit road this time by a word from his teams. And don't forget, next week, the iRacing.com World Cup Finals live on GlacierTV. The qualifying round taking place today. The top 4 as it stands are, surprise, surprise, Diach, Finland, UK and Ireland, and Australia, New Zealand. We're going to be on air 8 PM GMT, Channel 1, for the road final, and then we've got the oval final as well, sorry, at 10 PM GMT. That'll be on Channel 1, the road final on Channel 2. And Marius, it's going to be entertaining once again. We've got a Finnish guy, a DH guy, and a UK and I guy in the booth, so we won't be biased about it too much, but competition looking great once again this year.
Yeah, we're still going to try to keep it family safe, but of course, yeah, excuses for the brief amount of country-related racism. But we're going to take a look again once again. No, we're not going to take a look once again, because Alexi Usiakula has just been gifted the position by Joao Pinho. Once again, coming down to Le Com, and yeah, Joao Pinho just leaving the Finnish driver through there, seeing that he is quicker. Might be a good decision by him, as Emil Spindle and Moga DJ Philo, as well as Udain Rumi, are down pit road, and also Dave Geeling, and supposedly no, his teammate Simon Cattell says all. So Geeling, Narumi, Philo, and Spindle down pit road, and this is going to be a pre-decider of who's going to take the victory here. Spindle, of course, being a relatively long stopper here now, but also Philo surprising me a little bit now, because he's been expected relatively later, and also Narumi in early. So these guys are all refueling the same amount. Emil Spindle getting out, good pit stop by him, as well as from Moga Philo out, and Udain Rumi rolling as well. So David de Korp and Stanaway still out, and I'm going to put a bet and put it between David de Korp and Richie Stanaway, if of course nothing happens between these two guys, because they are sure going to have the shortest pit stop now, and they are also going to have the quickest car for the last 13 laps of the race this time by.
Yep, and also I'm a little bit surprised with Udain Rumi there. He had a very long first pit stop. However, that was obviously only just to get him to the same window as everyone else for this second and final stop. And Narumi losing even more time, of course. He was running in the 5th position. But yeah, the battle on the racetrack will be between Richie Stanaway and David de Korp. Last time by for David de Korp, so 1 minute 47.8. Richie Stanaway at 1 minute 48.009. However, he was being able to stretch that lead back up to 2.1 seconds last time by. So Stanaway having a couple of better laps to kind of stretch that lead up once again. Having a look at Richie Stanaway, we'll see whether he comes down towards pit road this time by. Last time he came in just a couple of laps later than those other drivers in 3rd, 4th and 5th position. Now Stanaway comes in, and David de Korp is going to come in at exactly the same time. De Korp's getting a lot of oversteer as he comes onto pit road, down to 37 miles an hour once again for these two. Stanaway, he's going to have a perfect pit stop for him. We know how good David de Korp is on pit road as well. They're working away now on that right-hand side of pit road, waiting for their pit stop. Stanaway will be pitting at the last pit stop. David de Korp will pit in the 3rd from last pit stop. They're into their pit boxes in 3, 2, 1. Now they're in. And Stanaway, they're both onto the jacks at exactly the same time. No issues for either of those drivers. So Stanaway should be out and away first. Indeed, he is. Then David de Korp's coming second. In fact, about 2/10 of a second slower there. But David de Korp's on pit road, so losing himself a tiny bit of time. But for David de Korp now, he has to drive his heart out just to get up to the rear of Richie Stanaway. For Stanaway, it's almost job done once again.
Yeah, almost being an emphasis on that, because we've seen how quick David de Korp is, but he has to make it work in the first couple of laps right now, and very quick pit stop from both of these guys. As you can see, Emil Spindle basically seeing these guys in the distance, because Stanaway has been having a 4.4 second pit stop, while Davide de Korp is also down to 5.3. So even Stanaway nailed that a bit better than de Korp. But comparing that to Emil Spindel, yeah, Spindel is basically out of question there for the top 2, and is of course trying to secure his 3rd position there, as of course we have to mention a brilliant race from Emil Spindel so far, but it just shows how little of a pit strategy difference this can make in the end of the race.
Miguel Martin and Jason Lovett working their way down into Lacombe once again. You saw how Miguel Martin there trying to look down to the inside, so they came into the corner, not quite close enough however. Jason Lovett's been able to kind of recover himself back up. These two drivers currently working in 11th and 12th positions on the racetrack. I'm interested to see how this is all going to fit into the next couple of laps, however, between Stanaway and de Korp. I've talked about, historically, Stanaway hasn't had the best lap. After his first lap out of pit, he's normally a little bit slower for the next 3 or 4 laps after that. His car hasn't liked cold tyres much this season. Davide de Korp in that Orion team has a really charged right now in that 58 car for the next couple of laps, and if they come past the stripe once again in a couple of moments time, I expect that gap to be up probably about 3 seconds on the racetrack. We'll get confirmation any time now, and it is now up to 2.0 seconds. So actually the Korps didn't lose that much time on pit road at all. It's kind of as they came out, so even though Stanaway had the better pit stop, the Korps had the better out lap.
Yeah, and it's sometimes worth a lot more than that, so it hasn't really changed much. Before the pit stop we had 2.2 seconds in fact, so even with the longer pit stop, I wonder why it was longer there. He must have just taken a break to take a big breath there. 2.0 seconds between the first and the second after 32 completed laps here. The 9th of 10 rounds at Spa-Francorchamps here. 44 lap race, so 3/4 in the books here. 58 minutes done. The drivers momentarily crossing the 1 hour mark. Bear in mind, this is one of the longest races in the season, so we're talking about fatigue quite a lot. So if it kicks in now, yeah, you probably don't want it to kick in right now, because it is Richie Stanaway against Davide de Korp for the race victory here. Emil Spindel not completely out of the play, but with being 5 seconds down the leader and 3 seconds down the next car ahead of him, it's going to be a hell of a lot of work for the Swede here to make it into the top 2. Otherwise, it is going to be Stanaway against Davide de Korp, and we've seen that on Road to America. These guys already know each other, and I'm just looking forward to what Davide de Korp is going to do. Is he going to get close enough, and will we see a fight?
Yeah, and it looked as though that the last stint that Davide de Korp was eating 1 minute 47 as if it was breakfast. However, to go back to that comment that you were just making about fatigue, I've got a feeling that might have been what kicked in for Ryan Terpstra. I mean, it's like it was a very confusing moment on the exit of last Source, and you have to be a little bit careful as you get onto the power. This is a track that likes to fall away a little bit on the exit of the corner, but you're completely right. I mean, this is the longest and also the toughest racetrack of the entire season, just because of the fact that you never really have the chance to breathe, except perhaps down the Kemmel straightaway. On the back stretch, of course, you're always turning left a little bit. It's just a little bit like an oval almost. But these drivers don't have much of a time to breathe, and physically, I mean, for all the way from the Coombe down to Blanchimont, it's a very tough and physical racetrack.
Absolutely, and we don't mention this often enough, but it is still very, very difficult, as Joni Termele once again gets a chance to fight here against Enzo Bonito. These guys have been going at it since Enzo Bonito took his break in Lecombe. He stopped still for 30 seconds and is now charging down the Finnish driver for My3ID Gaming here. For the 12th position, still a couple of drivers to complete their last pit stop. But, well, basically, it is too easy to just talk about it, as Enzo Bonito is trying to get around the outside once again, maybe completing the pass. Yeah, he's definitely got a good run there, and Termele is going to let him pass. He's seen that Enzo Bonito is quicker here, so he's not going to try and fight him, being a very smart move there from both of them. But the drivers are just so fast here. They are so much on the limit here. We forgot to mention how difficult it really is to drive on that last bit of the limit which you have, because one mistake over that and your race is over, and that is exactly what we've seen for Ryan Terpstra.
Yeah, and I did some laps, I did a lot of laps actually at this track earlier on. It's very easy to drive this track at, you know, 85-90% and get within about a second of what you want. To get that extra second, however, the braking zone, the turning points, the acceleration points, they all have to come together. And one missed acceleration point, you brake, 2 car lengths too late into some of these corners, you're going to go off. I mean, especially down at the bus stop chicane, you brake a little bit too late, you're losing yourself almost 4 or 5 tenths per second before you know it. And it really, these drivers probably been racing at about 95% this entire race. For David Corps right now, I expect him to be really trying to charge that gap down to Richie Stanaway and see if he's got any chance of getting the pass. Because we have seen here today, passing has been possible. And unlike at Road America, where you really only had 1 charge down into turn 5 if you were lucky, here, if you get a good run out of that source and through the Air Rouge Radio Complex, you have the chance to make the pass. And David Corps, last lap in that 58 car was a 1 minute 48.132. Compare that to a 1 minute 48.204 for Richie Stanaway. So again, a tenth of a second did David Corps. And for Davy, he's not got much to lose at all, really. Of course, with Stanaway being the championship leader, the last thing he's going to want to have happen is, a crash on, say, lap 42, 43, because that's going to put him way down the field. And I've got a feeling if David Corps can close and perhaps try and make a pass, I think Stanaway will give it to him.
Yeah, and Stanaway really doesn't need to risk anything. David Corps not being one of the main championship rivals, not as close as Emil Spindle nor Mogadiji Philo, so it's going to be a good decision from Stanaway here if he needs to. So we're just talking about the very, very critical situation to gift David Corps with the win, or to not at least go for a fight with him. Because he's still going to get 40 points, a second place towards the championship, still being a big point set, and being a real race driver, of course, he knows about the importance of the racing points here. Taking a look at once again how the situation develops, 1.6 seconds in the last lap, so David Corps once again coming closer and closer, and what an amazing effort there from the Frenchman. 1:47.9, the 3rd lap out of the pits, the 3rd flying lap already, 1:47, and it looks like Emil Spindler slowly giving it up there. 5 seconds down, and he's only doing 48.4. Well, hear me speak, 48.4 only, and he's still one of the quickest guys in the field. So you see where I'm going with this. David Corps really wants this. He has seen the chance, he has seen in the beginning of the race that it is possible to follow Richie Stanaway, but he has to make it work in the next couple of laps, because I'm really sure in the last laps Richie Stanaway is going to get into that rhythm again, and then it's too late for David Corps.
Don't forget you keep in contact with us on Twitter, always long, use the hashtag IRRoadPro. Egil Sandfield a couple of moments ago, no Peston disconnected from the IR Road Pro race. Timo Rivonen got Grosjean in turn 1. Team Doctor says I'm fine, disappointed though, was looking forward to a great race. And a shout out to GlacierTV, shout out right back at you. And a shout out to Rutgers Kev as well, watching and listening to the IR Pro race makes the day go faster. Well, we hope that indeed it does. Meanwhile, once again, Enzo Benito on Ronnie Tomana. Enzo Benito, I had to say, great pace by him. And he's going to be disappointed there with whatever happened in Lacombe. Perhaps taking a phone call, don't, of course, drive your car while on the phone. Some of the more comedic moments, he was getting a pizza, going to the toilet, who knows? But Enzo Benito currently running in the 11th position in that 73 car. And I would have loved to have seen his pace compared to Mogadiji Philo, Yudan Arumi, and perhaps also Emil Spindle, who once again is faded. And I'm going to go straight to that, actually. Emil Spindle has always been good in the first stint. Struggles a little bit in the second stint, however. And perhaps it's something with the fuel loads on that CST Azura car, or Spindle perhaps not physically having the stamina to compete with the Corps and Stanaway, because he's always getting stint number 1. And the second and third stint, he just fades quite a bit.
Yeah, and then your disappointment kicks in. I mean, Emil Spindle being one of the fastest guys, you're definitely aiming for a race victory here. So if you see yourself in the 3rd position, you see yourself 5 seconds down the lead, and you've got about 8-9 seconds behind you to the next driver. There's basically nothing for you left to do than just finish the race, and that is the least amusing situation you can be in. You want to be fighting as still a racing car driver. If it is in front of the computer or in real life, you still want to be fighting. And we've still got a couple of battles on the track, of course, being not immediate around the 1st position, but we've still got a couple of positions undecided, really. So Yudan Narumi, after a bit of a complicated strategy and a complicated move, after the first pit stop. He is still in the reach for 4th position, trying to get it from Mogafilo, who needs all the points he can get towards the championship. So Philo definitely will be an aggressive driver here, trying to save his 4th position down to the finish. We've got the iRacing teammates, Simon Cattell and Dave Geeling, only a second apart. And once again, a brilliant race by these two guys here from Great Britain and the Netherlands. 6th and 7th there for these two. A good race so far. Vasily Taichev and Paul Ilbrink fighting for the 8th position there. And if you take a look outside of the top 10, probably for a good 80% of the race, you've got the battle between Ken Leach, Miguel Martin and Jason Lovett for place 14, 15 and 16. And well, we're talking, yeah, of course, not really that much about the guys in the mid-pack, but we really have to, because these are the points collectors. And if we talk about the DWC and the Pro Series standings, of course, they still make it into the DWC, and that is the aim for them.
Indeed, yeah, and that battle for the top 25 is very close in that mid-pack. You've got, for example, Alexei Yakoda, Dave Geeling set exactly the same number of points. Of course, Yakoda has a position because he scored 2 wins and 2 top 5s compared to Dave Geeling, 0 wins and 1 top 5. And Timo Evening just 3 points behind them. Jesper Pedersen 5 points behind them. And you have a look down from 16th all the way down to 25th. You've got Paul Ilbrink on 97 points. You've got Miguel Martin in 25th on 72 points. One bad race and you could fall out of the top 25, and they are separated by just 1 or 2 points here or there. And with some of the drivers having bad races here today, it really could throw it on its head once again as we go to Suzuka. And of course, throughout the Suzuka broadcast, we will keep a very close eye on the battle for the top 25 for the final driver who will get in to the Grand Prix World Championship Series. As Yudo Naruma getting very sideways there. Rudafongi chicane working their way down into Scravolo once again in the 5th position, trying to charge down Mogo DG Philo. I have to say, for Mogo DG Philo, I do feel sorry for him at times, because he's had great pace all season long. The only thing that's been missing from his Pro Series resume is a win. And I think of all the drivers who haven't scored one, really, he perhaps is the most deserving.
Yeah, and definitely one of the quickest guys at top. I think he's been having the most top 3 results there together with Richie Stanaway, especially taking the 2nd position more often than all of the drivers here. So, yeah, talking about points collectors not only in the midfield, but also, of course, if you finish 2nd, if you finish 3rd, and you can't get the race victory, why not take the points for 2nd? You're obviously going to take 10 less, but you still get a lot of points. But it's just going to be coming down to the last race, really. Stanaway hasn't got the title yet. Filho is still in the charge, and Emil Spindler is also going to get a good point set there towards the 2nd position in the championship, of course, taking home the 3rd if the race is over like this. So nothing is decided yet. And you said earlier, there's a lot to lose, really, if you throw this one away right now in respect to the top 25. But there's also a lot to gain. We've got drivers like Paul Ilbrink, Vasily Taichev, also Joao Cardoso together, Joni Termele as well. These are all guys not exactly on the bubble, but they still need a good result, and this is exactly what they've been looking for. So one good result could save your spot in the DWC with 1 round to go, and that is Suzuka, and another classic there, and another one loved by the drivers, but it's also another one where massive things can go wrong.
Yeah, and for Richard Stanaway, just having a look at his points, he came into this race with 254 points compared to Mogo DG Philo 236 points, who was in 2nd position. David Corps coming into this race had 212 points, and of course the Corps were likely to claim 2nd position here today. But going into Suzuka, all Richard Stanaway is likely to need is probably about a top 5, top 10 finish, and he will be champion for this. And you know, coming out of Motegi, round 3 of this series, we could not have said that. And I had to say, very good showing by Richie Stanaway in the 2nd part of this season. And having a look through the points, it's really been a great battle by Stanaway. Recovery drive. Put that all into perspective, Stanaway's been on the money.
So, 5 laps to go here at Spa-Francorchamps. The last 5 laps, the last couple of, let's say 8-9 minutes here for the drivers. 1 hour 12 on the clock already, so we're gonna cross the 1 hour and 20 mark here. It's not sounding that long, especially if you take a look at how long endurance races are, but at the speed these cars travel, at the speed you travel with them, it is one of the most exhausting things to do here. And Spa, of course, not being one of the easiest tracks here in the service. Is it going to be Davide Corps or is it going to be Richie Stanway here? Nothing is decided yet. 4.5 laps to go, in fact, and Richie Stanway is just 1.6 seconds ahead. Usually this is the moment in his stint where he finds back his contention, where he finds back his mood to really put in one banker lap after another, but it looks like this time it is Davide Corps who's just getting the laps together better. His last lap has been merely slower than Stanway, but before that he's just been making up a couple of tenths, a couple of hundredths per lap, and that is almost enough for him to get in the draft. So taking a look at the straight line speed, he is maybe a little bit profiting from the draft, but it's gonna need him another 2 or 3 tenths to fully get the draft, and once he's got that, he's locked in it like a fighter pilot, and then he's only gonna get the chance at Le Comp, or maybe down into the last turn, which is of course the bus stop, and that's gonna be a very exciting race finish, and nothing more to ask for, really.
Yeah, and who can forget the battle between Mika Häkkinen and Michael Schumacher in the 2000 Belgian Grand Prix. You cannot say you've won this race until you come out of the bus stop chicane on lap number 44, of course. You can also turn your attention to Kimi Räikkönen and Lewis Hamilton, everything that happened there in 2007. But, you know, Davide Corps' gap 1.4 seconds as they came past the line. That last lap at 1 minute 48.0. Compare that to Richie Stanway's 1 minute 48.216. Exactly 2 tenths of a second difference between those two drivers. Now Davide Corps will have a little bit of the draft, and I always call the draft in this car a kind of 3-stage draft. You get the first effects of it from that kind of 1.4 through to 1.6 region. Then you get into the 1 second, you get a little bit more, but then you also start getting the dirty air as well. And once you're into about 6 tenths of a second behind the car, that's when you can really, you know, get up to the rear of the car ahead of you. But for Davide Corps, not only does he have to close that gap just a little bit more on these last 5 laps, he'll also have to fight for the dirty air as well. Perhaps his saving grace is that I said that I thought Richie Stanway was running a little bit higher wing. I don't know, it's going to be very close between these two drivers. Emil Spindell faded, he's in 3rd. Mogar DT Filo, he's in the 4th position. Yudo Rumi still right there with him, however, less than a second behind in this battle for the 4th and 5th position. But Yudo Rumi not being able to close up to the rear of Mogar DT Filo. And Marius, once again, that does show up the dirty air effect.
Yeah, and Philo trying his best to keep the Japanese driver at bay and not trying to get him a little bit closer, because Narumi is not going to need much to get his attempt at Le Comp. And as soon as he gets that, Philo is of course under big trouble there. So Philo is trying everything to avoid that, but it's the same going for Stanway and Davide Corps. And last lap by Stanway seemed to found another half a tenth over Davide Corps. So these guys are still amongst the quickest in the whole grid here. Last lap, in fact, Emil Spindel has been the only one being quicker. So this lap by, they are still the quickest on the track, and they are, well, not exactly fighting yet, but they are definitely locked in and looking towards the fight. 1.473 seconds and 3 laps to go. The time is running out for Davide Corps. It has to happen in the next couple of laps. He needs to get close enough, and even if he does, he's not going to be gifted with much chances to get the first position here. So if he wants to do anything, he needs to get it done now. So Davi, just go ahead, take that extra percent and try to close the gap. This is the last few of the chances you're gonna get here. 3 laps to go.
Yeah, and indeed, of course, in the very back of the Corps' mind, it's like, what would happen if I put it into the wall? Of course, by coming second in this race and Philo in 4th, chances are that the Corps will move up into 2nd position in the championship. And for the Corps, you know, that is going to be important for him coming to the last round at the week, where anything can happen. And looking forward to that race as well. Stanway, of course, will have the chance to win the championship. He wouldn't want to do anything stupid. So next week, I think we're going to see a different winner in Victory Road, and it's going to be highly interesting to see the battle between the Corps, Spindel, Philo, Stanway, perhaps Narumi as well, perhaps Shakola. Of course, don't forget, next week, same time, same place. We'll try and go a little bit earlier than we did this week. Apologies for one more time. Due to the World Cup of iRacing, it made things a little bit more difficult for us to get online on time, but we'll be back same time, same place next week, bringing you full qualifying, full pre-race, the entire race uninterrupted, and our post-race show as well, reviewing the entire season and crowning a champion here live on Glacier TV. 1 3/4 laps left to go. The gap is 1.3 seconds between Richie Stanaway and David Corpse. It is so close between these two drivers, but barring a miracle for the Corpse, Stanaway looking as though he might just have this one under his belt. Working away down into the Coombe once again. Fastest lap of the race for David Corpse, a 1 minute 47.725, a 1 minute 47.781 for Richie Stanaway. These two have been evenly matched all race long. Richie Stanaway a little bit better on that first pit stop. He was able to get that advantage up, and David Corpse pitting at the same time that second pit stop wasn't able to do the undercut. But Marius, if we're going to pick a driver of the day, it has to go to one of these two drivers, or perhaps Julian Rumi, surely.
Yeah, so far definitely, because they've just been once again in a different world there. For half of the race, we still have to mention, we talk about dominance so easily here, but there is a difference between the 95 to 98% of the drivers here, almost being on the complete limit here, and then there's just a couple of drivers who always go the extra 2%. It has been Mogafilo for a couple of rounds, definitely Richie Stanaway, definitely David Corp, and they just deserve an extra mention here, because it is so hard to just go that extra mile and try to get the extra few couple of hundreds out of a lap. So you see a gap of 7 seconds between the drivers there, and 7 seconds over 44 laps. You can basically just calculate that yourself. That is way less than half a second per lap, and you're just making up split seconds per lap, but you have to keep going at it. So it is the endurance which gets you. 1.1 seconds as David Corp slightly misses the entry towards the first turn there. Last lap, the bell is rang. David Corpse for second, Richie Stanaway in first, and it does not look like he's going to get the shot into Lecombe, and surely he's not able to make up enough time for the bus stop there. So by the looks, Richie Stanaway has to completely get it out of the midsection intact, trying to get it one last time into Lecombe right now. Right-hander over the curb, left-hander touching the curb, then getting it back on the gas and getting it out through and down the hill now into Rivage. The long right-hander, 180 degrees for the last time here for the New Zealand driver, taking the car out on the right side, clipping the curb on the outside, clipping the curb on the inside and the outside again, through Rivage 2 and now into Pouhon. One last time for Richie Stanaway, and taking a look in his rearview mirrors, the Corpse is coming closer and closer, but he has to be right at the tail. We may not forget this, but he will not have this. He will not get a shot into bus stop. Richie Stanaway is losing more and more, but basically David Corpse needs an extra few laps, because now he's getting out of the last couple of turns here, up through the last right-hander here, now approaching Blanchimont, and I'm safe to say now Richie Stanaway will have this one.
Indeed, yes, they're working their way down into Blanchimont corner for the final time. David Corpse has given it his all since that last pitch, have been able to close a second over Richie Stanaway just to get close enough perhaps to get the draft. But as they come through the bus stop chicane for the final time, Richie Stanaway takes his fourth victory in the Pro Series of Road Racing, and going into the final round at Suzuka in 1 week time, looking to become the Pro Series champion for 2012. And David Corpse come home in the second position, going straight back to have a look at Emil Spindell. He comes home in the third position. Mogafilo able to hold off Nudan Arumi to take fourth position. Arumi taking fifth. And then Dave Geeling taking sixth position here today. Simon Cattell seventh. Vasily Zaitov in eighth. Paul Ilbrink in ninth. Hal Kardashian in 10th. Working away at the racetrack. Great performance by Stanaway once again. Determined drive by the Corpse once again. Yoni Bachman, our cameraman, did make a point, though, that perhaps driver of the race should go to Yudan Arumi. And I'm not going to disagree with him, to be fair. I mean, he started this race down in, the 11th position. Managed to work his way into the top 5. Perhaps his strategy in the first stint wasn't the best, but still, top 5 finish for him. Great showing.
I'm really not sure. Usually, after the races, it's pretty clear who's been having the best race, but if it goes as close as this, it's just amazing. And yeah, especially with Stanaway and the Corp, it's just been such a close race, really. And we once again have to mention, great race by Richie Stanaway and great race also by David Corp, but we don't mention this enough. It is so easy to do these little mistakes, and especially in the last stint, from 2.2 to 1.2 seconds in around 10 laps. I mean, it's nothing. It's less than a second there over 12 laps, in fact. So less than 0.1 second per lap David Corp made up. They both haven't done a single mistake during that. And imagine that, 12 laps at this rate of speed, no mistakes, and still no position change, so amazing effort for both of them. And if it's a position to be proud of, Davide Korb can definitely be proud of his second place today.
Yeah, and drivers working their way back to pit road. A lot of them very light on fuel. Race results coming up on your screen momentarily. Richie Stanaway, first place once again in that 72 Team Redline car. Davide Korb in second position. Emil Spindal third. Mogar DG Filo in fourth. Yudan Rumi rounding out your top five. And then Dave Gielich in sixth. Simon Cattell seventh. Vasily Zaitov in eighth. Paul Ilbrick in ninth. Hal Cadasso in the 10th position. And then we've got ourselves in 11th Enzo Benito, 12th Yoni Tamada, 13th Ken Leach, Pierre Brito 14th, Mega Martin 15th, Jason Lovat 16th, PJ Sturgill 17th, Alexei UC Yakola in 18th, Tego Offero in 19th, Wes Richards coming home in the top 20. 21st position is Hal Pino. We had a couple of drivers still circulating on the racetrack, but laps down. Jesper Pedersen in 22nd, Andrea Baldi in 23rd, and then retirees of this race, Ryan Terpstra, Max Delorco, Marcus Caton, Christian Laurent, Robert Acamo, and Timo Evening. And very quickly, Marius, we saw Emil Spindel there and Richie Stanaway running out of fuel. And no iRacing race control, Shannon Whitmore and Nim Cross Jr. Always want these drivers to bring their cars back towards pit road. Do you have any idea what the perhaps ramifications might be for those drivers?
To be fair, I can't think of any right now because usually they are obligated to take the car back into pits there. But I can't see anything right now, and it happened a couple of times, so I can't see if this is going to be penalized or not.
And of course, Spa being the longest track of the series, and in reality what they normally do is they come out of La Source, they just bring the car straight down into the endurance pit road and take things from there. Of course, that's where the podium is as well. But we'll keep an eye on that one as we come down into Suzuka. Just got a couple of minutes to run through things. And first of all, that start, Mogar DG Filo, once again, trying the outside into Lacombe. Last time he managed to make it work on Alexei Usiakola. Today, Richie Stanaway is having nothing of it, and I still think that Filo might have got himself a little bit of damage on his underside because he wasn't on a one-stop race, and he was a lot slower since then.
Yeah, there has to be something done wrong with this car because something odd about his pace really. But it's hard to say now. But during the race it really looked weird. But I think it wouldn't have changed much in the end result.
And when you have a look at the other drivers through this field as well, I think importantly we had ourselves some really standout drives here once again today. Yudan Arumi, his best performance in a very long time. Ryan Terpstra, until it all went wrong for him, he was having a great shot. And in fact, he would have probably been classified in the top 10, what with Enzo Benito having issues a little bit later on as well. Alexei Usiakola, getting up to 18th after starting almost half a minute behind everyone else. A good shot by him. But I am going to put you on the line now, and I'm going to say to you, who is going to be your driver of the race?
You really put me up to a tough one. I'm telling this. Usually, I can't imagine that we've ever had such a tough choice because it's usually just so close. And once again, it was. And I'm just gonna give it to Davide Korb and Richie Stanaway. I'm sorry. I've still got Yudan Rumi in my back of the head, but they just shown once again how high the pace is and how high the standard of racing is, and it's just a fraction of how much their race was better than everybody else, but this fraction really makes them the driver of the race.
And very quickly, we'd like to welcome in into the GlacierTV booth, Alexei Usiakola. And Alexei, importantly, you had yourself a bit of a tough race today. I believe, I didn't get exactly what happened, but you might have started it from pit road. Importantly, however, you've been able to get yourself now up into 11th position in the championship with enough points to be determined as a driver for the 2012 iRacing.com Grand Prix World Championship Series. So congratulations to you on that. To go to your race, however, how was it?
Well, we had a really bad qual setup because I don't know again, but we had all me and Davey and Max had bad qual, and well, we know that we race pace was faster than anyone else on the grid, so need to just need to make better qual setup or something.
And I mean, how was your race itself? I mean, having to work your way through traffic. Yes, you had a much faster car than some of the others around you, but it was kind of tough to overtake here, with really the biggest passing opportunity being down into Lacombe.
Well, I got damage on the first corner, and it was Christian Lorente who hits me on the back, and the car got damaged, and I got nothing to repair it on the pitch, so it was just I just lose 30 seconds on the pitch without any repair.
And you were talking about some repairs to your race car. Explain to us what happened there.
You mean the first corner?
Yeah.
Emil got a bad start there, and the first 5 cars were very wide there, and I got medium start, and I take the inside line, and I just looked the replay. Christian just right behind me. I don't know.
And, of course, you are now locked into the 2013 iRacing.com Grand Prix World Championship Series. How much is that a relief off your back, especially as you've done a kind of part-time season this year?
Well, I don't really care. That doesn't matter. This race was just so bad that I just had the best win here, and but congrats to Davey and nice win, Richie. So bad that Max had to quit this race.
Indeed, yeah, of course. Last time by, Alexei took victory. This time, unfortunately, classified outside of the top 15. Going to hand over to Marius going back with our race winner, Richie Stanaway, once again. And Marius, you're going to get bored of talking to this guy after a while.
I can say I am, because once again a brilliant effort from Richie Stanaway there, taking home the race victory 1.2 seconds ahead of David Cobbs. And I can imagine you're going to get yourself a towel or two, because this, at least from our viewpoint, has been one of the most difficult races in the season.
Yeah, definitely. That was the hardest race for me so far this season. Davey had some really good race pace, so at no point really could I relax. It was just I had to push as hard as I could the whole race. But this week I was a little bit worried about my qualifying pace. So I probably spent a little bit too much time practicing my qualifying laps and didn't pay enough attention to my race setup and the race pace. So yeah, I was struggling a little bit with the car as well in the race. Yeah, but Davey drove a great race, and yeah, it was extremely difficult, but yeah, in terms of the championship, I'm glad, obviously, to have got another 50 points, and yeah, we're just looking to have another strong race next week in Suzuka.
So you said it exactly, the championship now looking very much your way, as especially your championship contenders Emil Spindel only in 3rd and Moga Digifilro in 4th. So for the last round of Suzuka, especially you're going to pay attention, of course, towards the race. I can imagine you're looking towards getting another victory there, but what is really the aim for you? Just securing the championship or still going to for the race victory?
I think I'll just try my best, just like any other week, just about optimizing the car setup and my driving performance. So yeah, obviously it's these races are a lot easier when you can qualify on pole position and get a good start, and then if you can come out of the first corner in the lead, most of the job is done. And if if you come out of the first corner, in a bunch of cars, the race is always going to be difficult. So yeah, obviously I'll just try to have good qualifying next week, and hopefully yeah, we have another good race. But obviously the main priority is just taking away the necessary points to obviously win the championship. But yeah, I'd probably just approach it like any other race. So yeah, looking forward to it.
It is definitely not decided yet. However, Richie Stanaway, your championship leader, and race victory here for him today at Spa-Francorchamps, the main contender really for the championship here. And I'm going to give over to Will Vincent together with Moga Filo, who is going to be 3rd after this round in the championship standings.
Indeed, yeah, and very quickly about Stanaway, you need position 13 to be classified as the 2012/13 Pro Series of Road Racing Champion. So just make sure you don't do a Lewis Hamilton on me and leave it to the last corner. Thank you very much. Yeah, but as to Moga DG Filo, it's been a tough old race for you here today. You tried a repeat performance of what happened down into turn number 1 of the first race of the series, trying to overtake Richie Stanaway. Didn't work out for you, however. And my first question really is, did you get any damage there? Because that first stint, really did seem as though you were slightly off pace.
Hello, Will. Hello for everyone that's watching this broadcast. Well, I had to bet on trying to overtake Stanway at the first lap, and that's what I tried to do. But things didn't go as I expected. My car oversteered a little bit first part of the comp, and then I lost momentum. Davi could try and overtake, and to avoid a contact with any spin that went a bit wide there, I went over the curb. The floor of the car hit the curb, and I had to go to the grass. I don't know exactly if it made any damage to my car. The first thing I was just really struggling since Narumi was quite fast, lighter on fuel than me, and I was off the pace basically due to driving and due to the fight for positions. I could do better pace after the pit stops, but my car was not that consistent on race pace. It was okay on practice, but this week preparation didn't go as good as we intended to, since my teammate Paul had lots of trouble with his internet connection. So hope to have a better preparation next week, and I know that it will be very tough to take the championship from Richie Stanaway. Things really need to go wrong for him to let me try. Suzuka is not my strongest track, but I will fight hard to get the second spot and do my best that if I have the luck of winning the race and things going well to me, fighting for the championship. But now my focus is to ensure the second spot, since with the number of victories that Stanway got, it's very difficult to take from him the championship. Anyway, I'd like to thank Team Radicals and Tier Series that support us, and I hope to have better luck next time.
And you talk about having to have better luck at Suzuka. You have still got 7 top 5 finishes out of 8 races, so incredible consistency for you. The big question is, I've been asking this all season long, can you get victory in the final race of the year?
As I used to say, I will fight for getting the victory, and let's see how things will do. This is a very strong grid, and I've been consistent on results, but it's a very tough grid. So usually qualify is defined by less than 1/10. Race pace of the drivers are close to 1/10, so it's very hard to predict anything, but let's see if I can get a win on this series.
Thank you very much, Moga. And very quickly, I'm going to hand over to, in fact, I won't hand over to Marius because he's just disappeared off for a moment. I'm going to talk to a driver who is just a handful points away from being classified as a 2013 Grand Prix World Championship Series driver. Mr. Paul Elbrink, top 10 finish for you once again. How was your race?
The race was pretty good, actually. But it was a bit affected by my connection problems that I've been having all week, as Mugger said. As during qualifying, I had my first lap invalidated, which was quite a bit faster than my second one. But then again, the race had a good start and the connection was okay then, and so I was easily driving in top 8 at the end till the connections problems came back, and then I had to let Vasily by because I was holding him up. Stable connection. It's not really fair to be racing him in those conditions. So in the end, I'm happy I made it to the finish and made it to the race at all. But
And I've just been having a look. You need to get 4 points in the next race, which means you have to come. This is going to be really, really difficult for you. 26th place or higher to get yourself into the 2013 Grand Prix World Championship Series. When you look forward to Suzuka, knowing the fact that you almost just need to show up and make sure you don't get caught up in a first corner wreck to be classified, how do you approach that race now, knowing that you've got majority of the work done? Can you perhaps take a more aggressive stance to your setup or your race pace, or take me through the emotions and the feelings that will be going through your head next week?
no, I think it's just the same like it has been the whole season, really. I'm just looking for a good result, and there's not anything different in the approach. I mean, in theory, I could drop out maybe, but those chances are really slim, so I'm good.
That's good. And of course, looking forward to next week. Looking forward to Suzuka?
Yeah, it's an okay track, so will be nice to see the championship unfold and have a nice finish of the season.
And that is Paul Ilbrink there with another top 10 finish there in the Radical Steel Series car. And hopefully, I'm going to get the chance to talk to Yoni in a minute, but to run through your top 10 drivers in point. Richie Stanaway, 304 points. My guy, DG Philo, 268 points. David Corps, 252 points. Emil Spindell, 233. Enzo Benito in 5th. Simon Cattell in 6th. Yudan Rumi, 7th. PJ Sturgis in 8th. Dave Gillick in 9th. Thiago O'Farrow rounding out your top 10. They are all classified now as 2013 Grand Prix World Championship Series drivers. 11th place Alexei Usiakola and Vesely Zaitov in 12th. Also now guaranteed entry into the 2013 Grand Prix World Championship Series. Yoni, I'm going to bring you in very quickly. First of all, great race once again. Secondly, the field's now kind to shape up. We've got half of the drivers now who's locked himself into 2013.
Yeah, absolutely. This is what these guys have been. This is what they've been targeting for ever since the first Spa race at the beginning of the Pro Series. And this is basically this was a long distant dream for some of these guys at the time they started to qualify themselves for the Pro Series in the so-called top split races of the A-License Grand Prix Series. So yeah, dream come true now, and yeah, some of the guys, like you said, can take it easily. Some of them still have a lot of work to do, and even we might even have a possible upset in the final race if there's a big wreck or somebody really improves his pace. Yeah, Suzuka is a technical track, not one of my favorites for racing purpose, but many people love that track. It's technical, it's difficult, lots of places to make mistakes, and yeah, it will be fun to see if it actually plays out like it has been so far in the Pro Series.
And you talk about upset. Rez Richards, 26th position, 13 points behind. Realistically, he will need to get himself a 13th place finish because of the fact with the kind of car numbers we have, he will need to hope that drivers ahead of him crash out the race early on, and then he gets into the 13th position. Fabio Carmo and Xavier Bussoms, they pretty much now are out for it, as is Ken Leach, as is Max Delorco, and definitely Simon Liebert and Laurent Bettil will not be a 2013 Grand Prix World Championship Series driver. To look forward to next week, however, final race of the season. Suzuka, so many memories in Grand Prix racing. I mean, 1989, 1990, Senna, Prost. You have a look at, of course, Damon Hill in 1994, and that last win in the two-split race there before what happened at Adelaide, and then Michael Schumacher 2000 getting Ferrari's first championship in 21 years. Suzuka is always that championship race, and for Stanaway, he's got a good chance to win it. Do you think that he will go for the win, or do you think he'll take it easy?
I think he'll go for the win. It's just sounds funny to say it like this, but that's the easiest way to do. I mean, if you're a driver, if you're that fast, if you're like accustomed to be there at the top, win races at the top 5, fight for top positions. That's what you're basically accustomed to. That's what you strive for every time you go into a race in a race car. And yeah, I have no doubt in my mind that he will really go for the win. Not to mention, of course, if there's a last 5 laps battle with Davide Corps or whoever it might be, I don't think he will fall into the Senna Prost situation that we had in the beginning of 90s. But yeah, he will definitely. I would say he'll go for the win, but he doesn't take any stupid risks and jeopardize his possible win of the jacket.
And of course, that will be coming to you next week, same time, same place. Start time 1:30 p.m. GMT, the final round of the 2012 iRacing.com Pro Series of Road Racing. iRacing Super Saturday on GlacierTV returns with 3 live broadcasts. Of course, the other 2 being the 2012 World Cup of iRacing will be on air for first the road race at 8 p.m. GMT, 10 p.m. GMT for the oval race. As it stands, the 4 clubs going through are Diat, UK&I, Finland, and Australia and New Zealand. That can, of course, all change. Go to iRacing.com for more information about that. I tell you what, have a look at the Glacier TV Facebook page, 7 p.m. on Monday. Don't know why, but have a look. In the meanwhile, we'll be back same time, same place next week. This has been Will Vincent. Marius has gone to eat. That was Joni Backman. We'll talk to you all later. Bye-bye.
Laters.